Just a second. Okay, so in this chapter, the first basic thing which you start is with fact, like what is covalent bonds. So can one of you tell me what is the atomic number of carbon?
6.
6. Awesome. And so it will be something like this, right? So there are 2 shells. Everybody is familiar with the octet rule. Okay. Yes, yeah, y'all can answer. Okay, I don't mind. Let's keep this interactive since it's just a revision, right? You've studied this. So, octet rule states that the outermost element, so the first shell will have maximum of 2 electrons and the outermost should have maximum of 8. So since it's 6, so there will be 2 in the first shell or the K shell, and the next shell will have 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so now the dilemma is, what should carbon do? Should it gain 4 electrons or should it lose 4 electrons to become stable?
Gain.
It
Gain.
can't do either.
It can't go up like both the ways.
Okay, and why is
The
that?
main thing. Because if he gives uh if he gives 4 electrons, then then he'll have only 2 electrons. That is also okay, but it's not
Huh.
highly reactive. But
Uh,
if
Plus
he
or
gains,
minus, I think.
then he has to take more 2 electrons to complete the octet state.
no, I guess that's not quite right, because see, both these options are correct.
It will
If,
share.
yes, it will share, but why will it share?
Because if it gains 4 electrons, then for 6 protons it will be difficult to hold on to 10 electrons, and if it gives 4 electrons, then for 6 protons it will be very difficult to lose the 4 electrons and make only 2 electrons.
Okay, yes, I think I can agree with that. So actually, both these options are feasible. Okay, both, it can even lose 4 electrons or it can gain. There's no issue with that. But the problem is with the energy part. Okay, so giving up 4 electrons is too difficult a task. Giving up 1 or 2 is easy, right? Giving up 1 or 2 does not consume that much energy as in giving up 4. Even if it gives up all 4, it will be stable. Both of these options will eventually make it stable. But okay, Bhavya, you don't have this for your test. Okay. No worries. You can just like listen to the class. Like, it's okay, right? It's just a revision. So both these options are feasible, and both of them will lead the carbon atom to become stable. But because of energy, it does not prefer either of the two. So what does it do? It shares. Okay, it will share electron. So how many electrons does it need to share to become stable?
4.
4.
4.
4. Okay. So now there are two options. One is, okay. So this, okay, wait, just a second. So I'm just drawing the dot structure here. So this diagram where you just write the electrons in the outermost shell, okay, is called the dot structure. So basically the dot structure for C will be something like 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a usual practice of keeping the electrons like opposite ends, but you can write it anyhow. Like you can even put it like this. That's fine. Anything is fine. Okay, so this is basically the dot structure. So now how will they share? So generally two carbon atoms come together and they share. So this guy will give his 2 electrons and this carbon atom will give its 2 electrons. So basically these 4 are being shared. So they are just giving 2, 2. So right, so you'll be left with other 2. I can draw here. Right, so now this becomes something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so wait. Uh,
Shouldn't there be one more pair in between?
mm, just a second. I got confused.
Both will share 4, right?
Yeah, both will share 4. Correct. So it will be something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and just a second. I still have some doubt. I'm
But then
making a mistake
4
somewhere.
single bonds are not possible, right?
So basically what I was trying to show is that it okay, wait, my bad. I'm just confusing you all also. Okay, so what does it do is it's what I showed initially was correct. It will share like this. Okay, so now you are left with how many? This guy has 4, so he has 2 more here, and this guy has 4, he has 2 more here. So it just does not share only with the other carbon atom, right? So this atom, let me make it in blue. So there will be one more here. So then this will be like this. So now this center carbon atom is stable because it has 8, right? Did you get it now? So it's not like carbon does not share all its electrons with just one more carbon atom. It shares with multiple. So it can actually bond to a maximum of 4. So one carbon atom, since it has 4, right? It can actually bond to 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 other carbon atoms. That's what I was basically trying to show. I'm sorry if I confused you all a bit. Okay, so yeah, so this bond which is formed between one carbon atom and the other carbon atom is known as a covalent bond, right? Anybody can tell me what is a covalent bond?
Covalent
One
bond is a bond in which the ions are shared instead of giving or taking.
Okay, yeah, one correction, it's electrons, right? The electrons are shared, not ions. Okay. Ion is basically any entity like this. Okay, so sodium gives up one electron and it becomes positive, right, to become stable. So this, when it gives up that electron to become stable, this is called an ion. Okay, so electrons are shared. Okay, cool. So this, there is a basic thing like initial part of the chapter where they are showing like how oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, they form covalent bonds to become stable. So what is the atomic number of oxygen?
8.
8.
Correct. So oxygen, if I were to draw the structure, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So 6, and then there is another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So in this case, they two combine together to form the molecule, right? Because they need to only share with the other oxygen atom. So this is what happens. So it will become like this, right? 1, 2. So both of them have 8. This is O2. Similarly, there is the same for nitrogen, there is same for hydrogen. So hydrogen will achieve helium's configuration, right? So basically this is all the introduction of the chapter where they show you what is dot structure and how do you draw these things and how do you make one for NH3. Okay, NH3 is interesting. So N has, I'll show you. N has the atomic number 7. So they are like 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, correct? Yep. 5. Now there is hydrogen with 1, hydrogen with 1, hydrogen with 1. They all come together to form NH3. So H and H here. So done. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the dot structure of NH3. Right. So actually it is because of this is the lone pair of electrons which it has. Maybe you might learn this in the higher classes. So because of this lone pair of electrons, it's actually written like this sometimes. And that's why because of this lone pair of electrons, it's not really stable and it converts to ammonium ion, which is this NH4 plus. So this is all about the dot structure. Then yeah, so okay, this is done. Then there are a few basic properties of covalent bonds. So one thing you need to know is covalent bond is, like you all said, it is sharing of electrons. Okay. Second thing is compounds which have covalent bonds have weak, or rather, what should I say? Not weak. Let's say low. Okay. Low melting and boiling point. Can anybody tell me why?
Because there are no ions, the covalent bond has low melting.
Okay, the ion point, yes. Okay, that will be more suitable for electricity. So for melting and boiling points, it is because this bond is weaker. So always remember, covalent bond is like a weak bond. It's not as strong as ionic bonds. So should I write it here? Weaker than ionic bonds. Because of this, is a very small amount of heat or very small temperature change is enough to break the bonds between such compounds. Because of that, they have low melting and boiling points. Okay, and yes, the point which you said, I can use that to explain why these are bad conductors of electricity. Give me an example of a bad conductor of electricity which has a covalent bond.
Diamond.
Rubber.
Carbon.
Okay, all of you gave different answers. Okay, rubber, no, I'm asking carbon specifically. Yeah, diamond, I guess, yeah, that will do. Carbon, yep. Carbon, yes, that's a
Charcoal.
intelligent answer.
Charcoal.
Charcoal. Okay. Okay, I'm not really sure if charcoal has covalent bonds.
Ma'am, but charcoal doesn't it is a bad conductor of
Will
electricity.
silicon apply? Because silicon also has like a valency of 4, right? I'm not sure if it's a bad conductor. I'm asking.
Yeah, silicon is actually a semiconductor. So that has like different properties, and yeah, it is not a good conductor of electricity that well. That's why it's used in microchips and all those computer parts.
Does it have
Ma'am, then
covalent
plastic
bonds?
is also is one of the bad conductors, na?
Yeah.
Plastic is also
I'm
made
just
up of
asking a
carbon.
bad conductor which has a covalent bond. So I just wanted basic example like something like diamond or so. So yeah, there are a list of compounds which are bad conductors. So, but for plastic again, you need to find you need to know why it is a bad conductor. For that, you have to go into the depths of what is its formula, and also there are different plastics, and different plastics have different formulae, chemical formulae. Okay, PVC, polyvinyl chloride. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so basically you got the idea, right? So these are bad conductors. Why are they bad conductors? Like you all said, because they don't dissociate into ions. Okay, should I write it here? Do not dissociate into ions. So these are the two important things to note about covalent bonds. Okay, this is done. Next, coming back to carbon again. So carbon has this property where it forms allotropes. Can anybody tell me what is allotrope?
Different structures, but like same properties, kind of.
Yeah, the physical structure is different, but the chemical properties are same.
Okay, correct. Yeah. So basically, allotropes is like a little bit fancy word given to any compound which is different in the physical form. Different in physical form
Is it
means
basically another word for the isotope?
no.
Or
So
we
they are
can say
different.
complex carbon compound. Yeah.
Complex. No, these are not complex carbon compounds actually. There
Like
are.
physically they are complex, but like when you write it or like see it in the paper, it's very simple. Like it's very not complicated.
No, nothing like that. So allotrope basically, like Ritu said, they have different physical properties but same chemical properties, similar chemical properties. As in, they are all going to be this. They are all going to have low melting and boiling points. They are going to be bad conductors and so on. So basically, carbon has three allotropes. Coming back to your question, Ritu, allotropes and isotopes are not the same. So, yep, allotropes and isotopes are not the same. Isotopes are any, how should I say, element which has the same atomic number but different mass number, isn't it? That is an isotope. So, isotopes can be different elements also. Like, should I give you an example of isotope? Something like nitrogen and just a second.
I
Yeah,
guess
so
it's isobars,
uh,
where it's like the same atomic number, but they're like different versions of the same element.
okay, so there are two things. What you're talking of is isotopes and isobars, right? So in isotopes, the atomic number is same, mass number is different. Okay. In isobars, the atomic number is same, mass number is different. Should I give you an example? Just give me a second. I'm not having any examples offhand.
Isobars have atomic numbers different, right?
No, bar is with respect to mass. Mass number will be different.
But
Isotope
if like
is
the atomic number is same, that means it's like the same element, just different versions of it.
uh
Yes.
okay, I guess. Yeah.
I'm getting confused.
Wait, just let me give you an example. So isotope basically, okay, okay.
An isotope is carbon-12 and carbon-14.
Yep. Okay. Let me write it here. Okay, isotopes. I made a mistake. So isotopes basically are having different mass numbers. Sorry, my bad. Different mass numbers, but same atomic number. Example is this C12, C12 and C14, right?
Even hydrogen.
Hydrogen. Hydrogen has three isotopes, protium, deuterium, and tritium, right? Should I just write it? Okay. So like this, hydrogen has three, right? What are they? 1H1, 2H1, and 3H1. These are the isotopes of hydrogen. Like that, there are different examples. Okay, so mainly carbon and hydrogen are the common ones. Okay, now let me give you examples of isobars. Okay, isobars are nothing but the.
No, I got like isobars and isotopes. I'm confused between isotopes and allotropes.
Okay, coming to that. Isobars have a different atomic number but same mass number. The examples of the classic, there is a triad of, I think, yeah. Okay, the best example of isobar is chlorine. Chlorine, there is 35 and 17, and then there is. No, wait, this is an isotope. My bad.
Chlorine and argon. Like 40 chlorine and 40 argon.
Chlorine is 35, no?
Potassium and calcium.
Calcium, potassium, and argon. Correct. Potassium, calcium. All of these are 40. So this is 18, this is 19, and this is 20. So this is isobar. Okay, done. Isotopes, isobar, you got it, right? So these are more to do with mass number and atomic number. So based on the number of protons or the number of nucleons. Okay, and coming to allotropes. So allotropes have no connection to this. Allotrope is like, this is actually very specific to carbon. So carbon exists in different forms. So it can either form a sheet, okay, a sheet-like structure, something like this, a sheet-like structure. It can form a mesh-like structure, like a football. Something like this, okay. So it's joined everywhere and it becomes sort of like a football. And also it can be stacked on on top of one another. So I can have some form like this also. Right. So these are the
The
main.
stack one is like graphite now, ma'am.
Yes,
The
correct.
stack thing.
Yep, graphite. So there are three. This form, The three main allotropes of carbon which we are talking about are diamond, graphite, and fullerenes. So I'll write them here. The three main are diamond, correct, graphite, and fullerenes. So out of this, you do not need to know the structures or anything like that. You just need to know if they ask you what are the three allotropes of carbon, you need to know these three examples, and you need to know that allotrope basically differ in physical structure. So in diamond, it's like a stacked structure, right? Uh, it goes on to form uh, sheets and all sorts of things. In graphite, again, it's a different structure, and in fullerenes, it is this. So fullerenes, they might ask you to be a bit more specific. So the classic example of a fullerene is C60. Okay, it's called a C60 fullerene because there are 60 carbon atoms. So they are different, like some of them have double bonds, some have triple bonds, and all those things. So we don't need to get into that. But the C61 is known as, it's named after,
Buckminster
yep,
fullerene, right?
yes, Buckminster fullerene. So this is important. Fullerene is nothing but a structure like a football. Remember that. So any carbon compound which can form a mesh or a football-like structure is known as a fullerene. And the example of that is C60, which is also known as C60 fullerene or Buckminster fullerene. So try to remember this name. Okay, that's all you need to know about allotropes. Okay, now coming to the next. Okay, Ritu, is it clear now? Allotropes, isotopes, and isobars.
Yeah, slightly.
Yeah. Oh, slightly. Okay, you still have some confusion?
But allotropes have different, even like physical properties, right?
Yeah, they differ in physical properties. They have similar chemical properties. So all these three, like graphite, diamond, and
Oh yeah, and like isotopes have like similar chemical properties, and yeah, it's like the
yes,
opposite. Now I get it.
yes. Okay, so this is more on like a proton. Isotopes and isobars are more based on protons, electrons, and neutrons. Okay, these two are based on these three differences. Correct. Yeah, you know, right? Atomic number is like number of nucleons and electrons. So, and atomic mass is the number of electrons, if I'm right. So these two are based on. Yes, tell me.
Diamond has C12 or C14.
I'm not sure about that. I don't really know the structure of diamond as such. But don't worry, it is not required at your level. So, okay. Yeah, so isotopes and isobars are basically based on the number of nucleons or the atomic particles. Whereas allotropes is has got nothing to do with the subatomic particles. It's got to do with the way of bonding, like how does it form bonds, whether they form a sheet or whether they like come together and form what kind of a structure. Based on that, you have allotropes. Okay. Yeah, sure, Shankardeep. No worries. You can go. Yeah, you can refer to this lecture later. Okay, so that's about allotropes, which you need to know. Now coming to the next most important part, which they'll ask, of course, since most of the important stuff has been removed. I guess this is the only thing they'll focus on. Is this why does carbon form so many compounds? Like why uh, does carbon form compounds? or something on the lines of why are there so many carbon compounds around us. So if you go to see, actually most of most of the, no, how should I say, not elements, the constituents, like uh, most of the things around us are made of carbon, have carbon as one of the elements in them. If you consider the human body, there are, we call them as biomolecules, right? So like proteins, sugars, everything has carbon in it. Fats, carbon is there as a constituent. And even if you go to look around daily life applications or things, like most of the compounds we use have carbon in it. So why is that? Why are there like so many compounds of carbon? So for this, there are two main reasons which you need to know. Okay. So one is known as catenation. Okay. And the other property is tetravalency. Because of these two properties, carbon is like something unique, and it has the ability to form many compounds. Like maybe it's not so easy to explain at this stage, but if you go to the higher standards, there is this whole there will be a separate what do you say, topic in chemistry called organic chemistry, which is just about carbon compounds. It's like a full module. Like some people even have separate exams on that, so it's in that much detail actually. So that many carbon compounds are there which need to be studied and etc. So yeah, because of these two properties it exists. So let's just go a bit deeper. So what is catenation? Catenation is basically the ability of carbon to form bonds with other carbon atoms. Right. So what I'm basically saying is this. It can form bonds with other carbon atoms. Right. This is catenation. So because of this, because it can form bonds with other carbon atoms, there are like a lot of compounds which exist. Because it becomes stable, like this, it attracts other carbon atoms and it attracts other elements also, like hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, things like that, and it can easily form compounds. So that's one. And the second thing is tetravalency. Breaking down this word, what does it mean? It basically means the valency of carbon is 4, or like we discussed initially, that what carbon either needs to gain 4 electrons or lose 4 electrons. From there you get that tetravalency, that the number of electrons in the outermost shell is 4, correct? That's why it's a tetravalent element, not a compound, tetravalent element. Okay, so because of this it can form bonds with form bonds with compounds like oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, sulfur, and other, even chlorine actually, other monovalent elements, atoms, whatever, right? A monovalent is what? Basically anything, any entity having a valency of 1, +1 or -1, anything, right? Usually it will tend to -1, right? Okay. So here H is +1, like that. Cl is -1. All those. Carbon nanotube. Okay, Shankadeep. That is like, how should I explain it? Okay, so there is a complete different field called nanomaterials, which is basically dealing with uh, substances which are in the nanometer size range. Okay, so in that there is this specific, what should I say, application of such nanomaterials is carbon nanotube. I guess it's used in medicine, right? In healthcare to detect diseases. Yep. What is it used for? Okay, it has a number of applications. Okay. So, what you are saying, Shankadeep, comes under nanomaterials. It's not under this. So that is another property of carbon which is exploited in that they can form sheets and they can manipulate the atoms uh, to form such applications in the nanomaterial range, nanometer range. Okay, for now coming back. So remember these 2 points. If they ask you any question, like I guess this is asked very frequently, like why does carbon form so many compounds, or what is the ability of carbon, anything. If it's sentence twisted in any way which invariably means this, that why does carbon form compounds, mention to write these 2 points and explain a bit. So catenation, what will you explain? That carbon can form bonds with other carbon atoms. Correct. And in tetravalency, you need to explain, because the valency of a carbon is 4, it can form bonds with other. So in this, I'm covering the fact that the first point covers that it forms bonds with carbon. And in the second point, it covers the rest of the elements, other monovalent elements, like all these. Okay. So yeah, this is one important thing. Okay, done. Now we'll come to nomenclature and all that. Okay, so I will show you 3 scenarios. Okay, so there are 3 ways in which a carbon can bond with another carbon atom. Okay, either it shares 1 electron, it shares 2 electrons, or it shares 3 electrons. Okay, notice actually none of this it is stable. Okay, this is just it's bonding with another carbon atom. That does not mean it will become stable on its own. You're getting it, right? Or should I just make a diagram and show you? Okay, what I'm talking about is this. So here I'm saying 1 electron is shared. Okay, which means how many are left? If I'm sharing 1, which means 3 will be left. Correct? In this case, I'm saying 2 are shared, which means 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So how many are left? 2. And here I'm saying, okay, yeah, here I'm saying 3 are shared. 1, 2, 3. Correct? So which means 1 is left. Right? So it is not like all have to be shared or something, but with carbon it forms only these 3 types of bonds. 1, 2, and 3. Only 3 cases are possible bonding with the other carbon. So this first case is called, generally when there is single bond, it's called saturated bond or saturated compound. If there is a double or a triple bond, it's called unsaturated. Okay, unsaturated, unsaturated. Correct? Okay. Next thing, these are actually the class or the group of carbon compounds which are joined by single carbon-carbon bond are called alkanes. When it is double bond, it's called alkenes. And all the compounds, so this is a class, okay, mind you, a class of compounds. So there are a lot of compounds under this. So any compound which has even one double bond between carbon-carbon will come under alkenes, right? Okay. And there is alkynes. Got it? So this is the main thing you need to remember. Okay. Now, so what will be the examples of this? Okay, let me explain it to you in some simpler way. Okay, I'll come to nomenclature now. So you got this right. You need to know what is the difference between saturated and unsaturated carbon compounds. Saturated is anything which has single bond, and unsaturated is double or triple. Remember that. Okay, now we'll discuss about alkenes and alkynes in detail. Okay, so I am talking about alkanes. Yep, anybody got it? Cool. Okay, alkanes. Let's come to alkanes. So this is a class of compounds where there is a single carbon-carbon bond. So I'll give you examples. So one of them is this. Oh, paraffins. Okay. Paraffins. I'm not sure. Are they alkanes? I think they are.
Yeah, paraffins are alkanes, olefins are alkenes, and yeah, hydrocarbons are alkynes. I had written that down.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Paraffin is the other name for alkanes. Yeah, correct. Okay, so hydrocarbons basically is any compound which has C and H. Okay, remember that. They are not complicated terms. Hydrocarbon, just break it down. Hydro is H, carbon is C. So any compound which has C and H is a hydrocarbon. So it can have anything else. Okay, like basic constituent should be C and H. So number of C and number of H atoms can be anything. Right. Okay, coming back to this. So the first example is, let's say it's a single bond and just one carbon atom. So I have to fulfill these three here and these three here. So we usually fill them with hydrogen. Okay. Then the second example can be I put 2, right? So then I fill all these three, right? The center carbon has only 2. So you are getting it right, what I'm saying? And so on. So this can keep extending. I can have an endless chain of single bonded carbon atoms, right? So there is a huge number of compounds which falls under alkanes. Okay, coming to nomenclature, simple. So there is a case. So this is the basic hydrocarbon which you know, right? The most basic hydrocarbon which exists is methane. Correct? Why am I saying basic? Because one carbon atom. Okay. There is no question of single, double, triple bond in this. So it will just be a basic hydrocarbon, right? So this will be methane. Okay. The double, triple bond and single bond starts with 2 carbons. At least you need 2 carbons, right? So it always starts with ethane. Okay, I'll explain the nomenclature, like I'll write all the names in a table for you to make it simple. For now, let's just write this as a formula. How will we write this? There are 2 carbon atoms. So this is nothing but C2, and how many H are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Similarly, this is 3 carbon atoms. So C3, and I'll just count the number of hydrogens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. H8. Okay, so this is the first compound in the alkane series. This is the second compound, and so on. Now, if you notice here, check these two. Okay, just let me shift the screen. Okay, yeah. Just see the first and second compound ka formula. So one is C2H6, one is C3H8. So if you see closely, these two differ by what? I'll just subtract, right? I'll just subtract this from this. So it will become what? C, 1C, and then there are 2H extra, correct? So each compound of the alkane series differs from the previous by a CH2. So basically, if my first one is X, so yeah, hey, yes, correct. Yeah, that's the formula of alkenes, correct. That's the general formula. I'm coming to that. So basically, if my first, let's say first compound is X, okay, so the next one will always be X plus CH2, correct, and so on. Then it will be Y will be plus CH2, right? After this will be again plus CH2, and so on. So they found this similarity, or they found this pattern between the each compound, so they called it nothing but a homologous series, right? Basically, homologous series is where you have a difference, like it's a series. So I can say that alkanes is a series of hydrocarbons, right? Because the uh, the compounds only have C and H, so they are obviously hydrocarbons, right? Which differ by CH2, so they form a part of a series, isn't it? That series where the homologous is nothing but something which is same, right? So they are differing by this constant CH2. That's why they are called a homologous series. Okay, done. So similarly, I'll tell you, similarly we can do the exact same exercise for both alkenes and alkynes, right? I'll just write it in short. Okay, so alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. Okay, so I gave you 2 examples. Let's see this. So if I say, if I'm considering a carbon atom with 1 double bond, so how many more can I fill here? How many are left? So 2 electrons are being shared, right? So how many are left?
2.
2, correct. Yes. So generally write it like this. 2. So just always remember 4. If you see carbon, you should remember 4. Right, because that 4 comes in handy a lot. So you just, whenever you see one carbon atom, see if there are 4 next to it. Okay, there should be a total of 4, right? Then I'll show you a trick how you know whether it's an alkene, alkyne, or uh, alkane just from the formula, right? And in this case, how many are left? 3 electrons are being shared. So how many electrons are left?
1.
1.
Correct. Awesome. So 1. So this is the first compound. So notice the difference, right? This is the first compound in alkanes. This is the first compound in alkenes. This is the first compound in alkynes. Correct. Okay. Similarly, we do for the second one. Okay. So now tell me here, this center carbon, how many electrons does it have left?
None.
1?
None.
None. Correct. Okay, none. And here? So here what I've
There
written is
also
not
I
possible,
don't know. Yeah.
isn't it? How is this possible, what I've written here? If this is true, which means the center C has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6. How can it share electrons which it does not have? So this is not possible, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. Got it? Yeah. So always remember, just when you're trying to form a compound, or when you're trying to break down the formula into a structure, just check all the carbons should only have maximum of 4. What should I say? 4 hydrogen or 4 other carbon atoms or any other entities attached to it. The maximum number should only be 4. If it exceeds 4, which means there is something wrong. Okay, keep that in mind. That's the easiest trick to writing the correct structures if they ask you. Okay, so here, like you said, correct. So there is none left. So I'm not going to put anything. So this guy still has 2. So I'll just write 2. This guy also has 2. Correct. Okay. So yeah, this one we saw here again. If I write it as a structure, this comes to C2H4, and this comes to this comes to what? C3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Uh, okay. Yeah. So this, what I made here is not exactly the. Okay, this is just C3H4. This is correct, but it's not the second compound of alkenes, right? This is just C3H4. Okay. Wait. Let me just. Okay. So for the second one, usually, my bad. So whenever you consider alkenes and alkynes, You need to. I was actually going to explain it using alkynes. It just skipped my mind that I made the same mistake for alkenes also. So both in alkenes and alkynes, the catch here is like in alkanes, all the carbon will be single bonded, correct? There will be only single bond. But in case of alkenes and alkynes, the criteria is that one of the carbon atom should be having a double bond or should be having a triple bond. So because all of them can't have, you will not, there won't be many compounds. Like in this case, what I had made, that structure was correct, there was no problem. But it was like, how should I say, it is the exceptional case of an alkene. Usually only one of them has a double bond. So there is, this will be C2H4. So this will be 1, 2, 3, C3, and this will be C3, H6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C3, H6. Correct. If you notice here also, these two differ by CH2, isn't it? And this case for alkynes, let me draw the second compound. So this will be the second compound. So here it will be 1. This will have none. This will have 3. So this is nothing but C2H2, correct? This is C3H1, 2, 3, 4. Again, these also differ by CH2, correct? So in all the three cases, why are they called homologous series? All these three, alkanes is a homologous series, alkenes is a homologous series, and alkyne is a homologous series because they all differ by CH2. So I'll just write it here. All alkanes, alkenes and alkynes differ by CH2, correct? Okay, now there is an easy way to remember the compounds which come under each of the three. So for alkanes, the formula is CnH2n plus 2, correct? Okay, and alkenes, it is CnH2n, and alkynes, CnH2n minus 2. Okay, so there are three. Easy way to remember this. Okay, I'll suggest this. So alkanes, there is A, alkenes E, alkynes Y. So go alphabetically, A before E, E before Y. So it will be CnH2n plus 2 for alkanes, then no 2 and then minus 2. So plus, none, and then minus, isn't it? So if you use this formula can be used to obtain any alkane or any alkene and any alkyne. So even if I tell you something like what will be the alkane for say one which has 60 carbons, I can get the formula using this compound. Using this general formula. So it will be nothing but C60H120 plus 2, or it will be C60H122. Got it? Yep, correct, Ritu. So something like that. So this is just an example. So always easy to figure out the structure if you know the general formula. And how do you remember it? A before E before Y. Okay, so this is done. What else I wanted to tell you? One more thing. Yeah, correct. So this is the next important thing about nomenclature, which I'll tell you. Okay. So if there is number of carbon atoms. I don't know till where you all have, but I'll just tell you till 10 to be safe. So 6, 7, 8. Okay, let's do it till 8. Okay, anything which has one carbon atom has a prefix meth. Okay, so like methane is nothing but CH4, right? Why is it called methane is, I'll break it down for you. It's one C, that's why meth, and it's an alkane, so it is ane. Okay. Oh, should I have mentioned that also? I forgot. Correct. Alkanes have the suffix ane. Alkenes have the suffix ene, and alkynes have the suffix yne. Okay. If you see a compound and they ask you to get the formula, so this is how you'll break it down. Suppose I say something like this. I'll tell you methane does not exist, methane does not exist. Okay, so if you see such names, or if you are getting such a name, in any case always remember, no such thing like that exists. Okay, so should I write it here? Methane and methane don't exist. Why do they not exist? Can anybody tell me?
Because alkenes form double bonds and one single carbon is not there.
Correct. Awesome. So we need, for a double bond or triple bond, we need at least 2 carbon atoms. Correct. Okay. So these two won't exist. So alkenes and alkynes, the series starts from number 2, which is ethene. Eth. Eth. Correct. So these are the prefix. So don't worry about this for now. I'm not really sure till what level do you have, like how difficult your naming can be. But I just wanted to help you out. This will help you later also uh, for naming. So keep in mind till 5. Let's just keep it till 5. Okay. I don't really think you'll require anything beyond 5. So one is eth, one is meth, 2 is eth, 3 is prop, 4 is but, okay, and 5 is uh pent. Okay, this much if you remember should do the trick. I don't think they'll go beyond 5 for your level. Okay, and how do I get names? Okay, so now you might be getting some clarity on things, isn't it? So methane, right? Okay, Bhavya, no worries. I'll try to finish by 4:30. Okay. Yeah, methane, eth, you can have ethane, ethene, ethine, correct? And propane, and so on. So you're getting the picture, right? So I am going to substitute. How do I get it? Okay. So if I'm asked ethane, so how do you go about the things I just told you, right? Suppose I tell you ethane, and I ask you to give me the formula for this. So what will you do? First thing you check is you break it. Eth and ane. Eth stands for 2 carbons. Ane stands for alkane. So it is an alkane, correct? So, and 2 carbons. So I'm going to substitute this 2 in the general formula. What is the general formula for alkane?
CnH2n plus 2.
Awesome. So I'm going to substitute this 2. So this becomes 2 into 2 plus 2, or C2H6. So I got ethane. See? Like that, if they give you any name, just break it down. So if I am giving you butane, okay, this looks a little complicated, isn't it? We make it simple. I will break it down, since you now know from where they are coming. So but stands for 4. Actually it is called as but. It's written as but generally it's called but. So but stands for 4, and ine comes from alkyne, correct? So I will substitute this 4 in the general formula for alkyne, and I will get C4H. 8 minus 2 is 6. Right? This is butane. Easy? Got it? Got the hang of it?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so if irrespective of whatever compound or whatever name they give you, always remember to break it down like this. Okay? I'm pretty certain that they might not go beyond 5. But if they go beyond 5, like there are names like for 6 it's hept, then hexa, hepta, octa, nona, deca, something like that. They don't usually go there, so they will stop at pent. So maximum compounds you can get is pentane, pentene, another pantene. There is a shampoo, isn't it? And pentine. So 3. So break them down.
That
Always
means
break.
we don't have nomenclature, right?
I thought you don't have nomenclature for functional groups. So this is just for
Functional groups is cut. Functional groups is cut.
correct. Yeah. So this is the normal nomenclature. I did not see this mentioned anywhere actually as deleted. So this might be there for you because they have homologous series. So this is like just one additional step to the homologous series, right? You need to read about the general formula anyways. Okay. For functional groups, it's not there. Yeah, and functional groups is a bit complicated. So that let's not go into that. Okay. So basically, I'll just tell you what it is. So this is the simple things we saw, right? So this case, what we saw is for hydrocarbons where all the other valencies, like the either a C is uh, bonding with a carbon atom or an H. So functional groups are when other entities bind, something like OH binds or C double bond O binds or CHO binds or there are a lot, chlorine, bromine, anything. So something like this. Okay, these are called functional groups. Okay, this becomes a functional group. Anywhere the H, anywhere where the H is replaced by some other entity, there are a list actually of there are a lot of functional groups which are possible. These are just a basic few examples I've given here. So anywhere where the H is replaced by any other element or compound, it's called a functional group. Why is it called a functional group? Is because of this compound or entity which replaces hydrogen or which is added here, the properties of this change. Okay, that's why it's called a functional group. That it changes the function of it. Functional group. Okay, that was just in a gist, just for you to know, so that you know what it is. Right. So, what else do we need to know about? I covered homologous series, I covered general formula, and I covered nomenclature. I'm not sure if you have isomers. I'll just explain it using one compound. So isomers, there are isomers possible for hydrocarbons also. Okay, isomers. So this starts from, okay, I'll show you from where it will start. So this is ethane, correct? There is no other way I can write this, right? No matter what I do, it will be C dash C only, correct? I can't change the order. Now we come to propane. 3 C's, right? H, 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 H. Okay. Notice here what I can do is I can bring this carbon down here, or I can make this something like this. So this is nothing but a straight chain. If all the C's are in one line, it's called a straight chain compound. And if it is not, like something like this, if I draw, it becomes a branched chain compound. Very basic terms. This is straight chain. Okay, should I write it here? Straight chain. branch chain. So out of the compounds which we just studied, like meth, eth, prop, but, and pent. So I'll write it here. Prop, but, and pent. These three have isomers. Okay. Prop has like one, the one I showed it to you. There's only one way. But has two, pent has three. Okay. So this is the basic thing. I'm not sure if you have it or you don't have it. So I just thought I'll tell you in brief what it is. So if you are ever asked to write isomer of something, a very simple trick to do it, don't think much. If I tell you butene, okay, if I tell you butane, they'll not go to ene and ine, they'll stick with ane for such isomers. Okay, butane means, break it down. But is how many number of carbon atoms?
3.
3 is prop. But will be
2.
4, not 2. 2 is eth. Okay, I would suggest make a table, or write this somewhere and read it like every day. So if you read it for like a week, it will register in your head, the suffixes, prefix and suffix both. Okay, so prefix is nothing but but, and suffix is something which comes at the end of the word, or ain, things like that. So ain, ein, and een, I guess you are comfortable with. For the number of carbon atoms, just read it 2-3 times, you'll get a hang of it. Okay, so but is 4. So I am going to quickly draw 4, right? So this will be my straight chain compound, correct? So if I talk about isomer for this, it will be something like this. What do? I take the last one and I push it here. I push it below this. Okay. What is the prefix for 8? 8 I believe is octa. Octane is 8, and ane for alkane, things like that. So there are a lot actually. People who are studying organic chemistry, or who take up chemistry as their specialization, they have to go up to like, I don't know, 20, 30 or things like that. So there are actually a lot of carbon compounds, okay, which are of uh, actual importance and which need to be studied. Their properties are studied. Actually, if you go into plastic itself, there are so many varieties of plastic, and all have just one minor difference, like very small difference, but because of that difference, their properties are completely haywire. Like some of them, there's the same class of plastics, but one is used to make food grade plastic, and the other is not food grade, things like that. So that much it will change. Okay, coming back to this. So trick to draw isomers is a very small trick. If ever you are asked, just do this. Okay, don't worry, you will be able to make this for anything they ask you. So what I said, first step, draw a straight chain, right? So this is how butane will look. Don't fill it with hydrogen, don't bother right now. This is for you to know what all the isomers can be possible, right? Second thing, I will shift the last carbon onto the second last one, correct? Third thing, what do? I can shift this guy also down. So what I'm going to do, I shift the first one. So it will become something like this. C, 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 C. Done, right? So these are the 3 isomers of butane which are possible. Okay. How do
I
I
have a
know?
doubt.
Yes, tell me.
Can't it be like the first C is down and the rest 3 are in a straight chain?
First C is down. Okay, you mean like this. Wait, I made a mistake here. This is just a straight chain. Okay, what you are saying is this, right? First C is down. First C is down, and the rest are like this. This way?
Yes, yes.
This is the same as this. So exchange either the
Can
first
it be
or the
like
last.
the fourth C?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Can it be like the first C, or the C which is down will be connected to the middle one?
Correct. That will be the third isomer. You're right. So the third thing I'll do is I'll bring this entire chain down. Okay, I'll show you with the first chain what I'm doing. So, okay, what I had written here, I had said this, right? So if you read this, this actually is a straight chain, is it not? It's a straight chain. There is no, I can write this as this. It's the same thing. So this is the same as first. This is not an isomer. Okay. What will be an isomer is this. I bring this to the center. Got it? Why is it not? Okay. So I'll just explain it once again what I just did. Okay. So I took the straight chain. Okay. Always use this straight chain diagram as your reference. Straight chain is nothing but all see in one line. Remember like that. One line. They are all in a line like a train, right? Picture it like that, something like that. So first case is bring either the first one or the last one, anything. So either of this is also correct. Both are correct. Bring the first one down or the last one down. Okay, this is one of the isomer. The third thing is put them on the center one. So go back here, place the last one or the first one on the center one. So you get three different isomers. Okay, I'll just explain using pentane so that it's clear. Pentane is what? Pentane is, pent is for 5, ane is for alkane, right? So I need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? And now if I am asked to draw isomer, what I said, bring the first or the last one down, correct? So I'm going to write C. I brought this guy down and I left this guy here. Wait, not here. I need to bring him down here. Correct. I bring him here. So this is one. And the second one is this. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what I did. This is the same as the first one. So this is not possible. Butane has only 2. I had a feeling I was going wrong somewhere. Okay. Just a second. I'll explain it again. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just explaining it again. I got a bit confused. So butane, I said, has 4 carbon atoms, correct? So if you are asked to draw isomers, first make a straight chain. So like this. Second thing, always remember if I write it like this or if I write it like this, these two also are the same as the first one. Isn't it? They are in a straight chain. There is no branch. This reads as a straight chain only. This will also read as a straight chain only like this. Isn't it? So this is the same thing. Second isomer is nothing but this. I bring this to the center, which means what? I'm putting 3 here and I bring it here. Got it? Bring the last one to the center. Always remember that. And for pentane, remember it like this. Pentane is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pentane has 3, butane has 2. Isobutane and neobutane. Pentane has 3 actually. So this is 1, this is 2. 2 is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will bring it to the center. So this is 1 and this is also the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I bring it here. This and this are the same. Okay, and the third one is this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This can be only written in one way. Okay, you got the hang of it, right? If they ask you to draw isomers, just refer to this diagram, you will get it. Just make a note of this somewhere. So there are these isomers only possible. So butane has 2 isomers possible and pentane has 3 isomers possible. That's it. Okay. No other isomers are possible for other compounds, at least till 5. If you go to 6 and beyond, yeah, there are definitely. Okay. Uh, okay, so we are done with nomenclature, we are done with isomers, we don't have functional groups. I'll just explain the reactions quickly. Okay, so there are, how many are there? There are 4 main reactions which are involved here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. First one is oxidation. Second one is addition reactions. Then there is something called substitution reactions. And what did I miss? Yeah, combustion. Okay, so combustion, you know, right? What is combustion?
Burning.
Correct, burning. So, okay, there are actually 2 types of combustion, something called as complete combustion and something called as incomplete combustion. Okay. So all you need to know for now is that in complete combustion, it burns in the presence of oxygen and the entire thing gets burned completely. In incomplete, there is, why it is incomplete is because oxygen content is not adequate, right? The combustion is nothing but anything which you react with oxygen. It burns and it gives out carbon dioxide and H2O. Anything, you can put any compound here. So for the example purposes, they have used one they have used is just carbons. This will give you CO2. If I use methane, what will I get? I'll get CO2 plus H2O plus definitely heat and light. Okay, you need to mention that. So the main products are carbon dioxide, water, heat and light, and balance it. So 2 it is balanced. This is not balanced, right? So we balance it. How will we balance it? There are 2 oxygen atoms on the left and 3 on the right. So I'm just going to put 2 here. So which makes it 4 on the right, and I'll put a 2 here, 4 on the left, correct? And hydrogen is 4 on the right and 4 on the left. So balanced, isn't it? Always ensure you are balancing all reactions. Even if it's not written balanced, please make a habit of balancing everything. So combustion, this is it. You just need to remember oxygen is one of the reactants and the products are always carbon dioxide, water, heat and light. You just need to balance them. Anything I put here, okay? Even if I put uh, C2H6, anything plus O2 will also give me CO2 plus H2 only. Now I need to balance it because C on the left is 2, on the right is 1, correct? So go ahead and balance it. Okay, so this is combustion. Clear? Okay, let's go to substitution. Okay, Substitution, as the name suggests, it is nothing but you substitute something for a compound, like add say Cl, so something like CH, something like, let's say, CH4 plus Cl, something like this. Actually, I need to see the just a second. Why is it not loading? Okay, so this is oxidation, this is addition, this is substitution. Yes, CH4 plus Cl2 giving you CH4 plus Cl2 giving you CH3Cl plus HCl. Okay, this is one of the reactions. I'm not sure whether you need to remember reactions for all, or this is the only reaction you need to know. Okay, and this happens in presence of sunlight, so that is important. And the key here is that if it's CH4, it will become CH3, so one hydrogen will reduce. So even if they ask you something like ethane, like C2H6 plus Cl2, what will you write it as? It will be nothing but C2H5Cl plus HCl. Got it, right? Got the hang of it? That's substitution. This can be done for a number of usually a number of elements, but more common for noble, not noble gases, more common for the 17th group. Usually, I'm not getting the name. These gases like iodine, chlorine, bromine, things like that, substitution reaction is used for those. Okay, so this is one. Addition reaction is simple. Okay, let me write it somewhere. Okay, I'll write it here. Oxidation, I'll write it here. Addition, I'll write it here. Acha, addition, as the name suggests, is basically you add hydrogen plus H to anything. Okay, so these are usually to convert unsaturated compounds to saturated compounds. So what are unsaturated compounds? Yeah, Bhavya, you can leave, no issues.
Alkenes and alkynes.
Correct. Unsaturated compounds are alkenes and alkynes, or anything which has a double or triple bond. Correct. To saturated is single bond. So what they are doing is this mechanism, or basically addition is nothing but if I have, let's say I have ethene, correct? So I will just add H2 to it to make it ethane. Got it? It's that simple. So I'm just going to add hydrogen to convert it into a saturated compound, to convert it into an alkane. Okay, so the important condition here is that nickel is used as a catalyst. You know what a catalyst is, right?
Yes, it speeds up the reaction.
Correct. So for this reaction, always keep in mind nickel is a catalyst. In this reaction, remember sunlight. For combustion, you just need to remember the products and the reactants. No catalyst or anything involved. For substitution, sunlight, remember. Oh, yeah. For addition, remember nickel. And oxidation is easy. Okay. Oxidation is basically alcohols are converted to acid. So considering you do not have functional groups, I do not think they'll ask you oxidation. But If you just want to know, I'll write reaction something like this, like what would be an alcohol? Let's say C2H5OH plus no plus, it's just directly converted to um, a- acid. Acid is nothing but C2. Okay, so oxidation reaction is nothing but addition of oxygen, right? So here the catalyst, or yeah, the oxidizing agent, not exactly the catalyst, the oxidizing agent is either KMnO4 or K2Cr2O7. So this is alcohol. Alcohols are functional groups, okay, which usually have the formula OH. So if you see any compound anywhere with the formula OH, it's an alcohol. And if you see something with COOH, it's an acid, or it's also called a carboxylic acid or simply acid. Okay, huh. So this is oxidation. It takes place in the presence of an oxidizing agent like K2Cr2O7 or MnO4, KMnO4, right? Okay, so these are the basic just 4 types of reactions you need to know, out of which combustion and substitution are easy and pretty important. So I guess you can remember these two. So these are nothing, like you just need to remember oxygen will give you carbon dioxide, heat and light, and in this you need to remember if I add anything, let's say chlorine, bromine, iodine, fluorine, things like that, what I do is I just reduce one H and I add the gas. Okay. There is an application for this, that for addition reaction. These reaction are also known as, should I write it here? They are also known as hydrogenation reactions. Uh, Again, break it down. Hydrogenation basically means addition of hydrogen. So if you ever see a name which is difficult for you to understand, try to break it down. Okay, there is always some clue hidden in the name, so it's always going to be related to something, isn't it? Just break it down. So this hydrogenation is basically addition of hydrogen, mainly used for converting vegetable oils. Okay, I am not sure if you have this application. There is a, if it is included in your syllabus, it is a good give reason that uh, what is the reaction uh, used to convert vegetable oils to fatty acid, something like that. So it's basically hydrogenation of oils. That is the application of this reaction. And one more key point here is that vegetable oils are unsaturated, and animal based oils. So it is not animal means there's no oil which is removed from the animal based oil is basically like these milk products you get. So ghee, for example, ghee will be an animal based oil because you are getting it from dairy, right? Dairy is coming from animals and so on, so that's why it's an animal based oil. So these usually are saturated, and saturated basically translates to unhealthy or fatty, things like that. So they have mentioned a point in your book saying that you should cook usually with vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are examples are like sunflower oil, mustard oil, things like that. So sunflower oil you get from the seeds, mustard oil from mustard seeds. I guess there is something called sesame seed oil, I guess till oil you call it, that is from sesame seeds, things like that. I'm just giving you a picture to understand what I'm talking about, so don't consider them as foreign words. So it's basically just uh, uh, how should I explain? So the things you read, like unsaturated fatty acid contents. If you have any packet at your house, any packet of processed food or anything, even chips or something like that, if you just look at the back under ingredients or composition, something like that, they write unsaturated fatty acids and how many. What is the saturated fatty acid content? It's all this, so it's all related here. Okay. So these are the reactions, and the other two parts of this chapter were there was property on ethanol and ethanoic acid. It is just paragraphs. So even if at a later point they decide to ask you, you can just read through it. It's not important. And one small concept is there, which is the action of soaps. So I'm not sure, is that deleted or do you have it? The action of soaps.
Soaps and detergents are deleted.
Deleted. Cool.
Even this
Deleted.
is deleted, which we did right now, the oxidation, addition and all.
ठीक है. Yes, correct. That you said, but then you all said we'll just do it, so I quickly explained the reactions. Mechanism of soap and that and all, I don't know if they decide to ask you. I don't know. I don't think they might. Okay. If okay. Fine then. If you have any particular doubts, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just wrap up the class. Any particular doubts? Like, had you all revised this yesterday? Like, did you go through the Quizlet? Did you read the chapter notes? What happened? No down, no answer. Okay, Heth has no doubts. Cool. What about the rest of you?
I got it.
Huh? Sorry?
I actually got it, no doubt.
Got it. Awesome. That's great. What about the others? No doubt. Okay, cool. Fine. So no doubts now. Then Thursday we'll give you all some practice questions. So try doing them. Okay. Chalo then. Good. So basically, I guess you all must be having confusion regarding nomenclature. So I hope those things I told you, the tables and the general formula, is helpful. I hope it helps you. Okay then. Uh, meet next time. Bye bye. You all can leave. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.